Saturday Morning 101. And DBRT, why did we do this particular series, this segment? What is Saturday Morning 101 for?
I don't like quizzes. I don't know.
I know. I put it in the outline that I was going to ask you this question.
I didn't.
You didn't read the outline. No.
I was drinking margaritas. I mean, come on.
So, Willow, why did we do this segment? Who is this for?
For those of us who haven't watched these cartoons or have no idea what they're about, so we inform them, and yeah, we go through all the cool little details about them.
That's a great way of describing it.
I don't know, guys. I started not to come back after y'all dissed My Little Pony.
I didn't diss it.
That was so bad. You broke my heart.
The original My Little Pony, like, if you read the description of it, it's some pretty hardcore stuff, man. They're, like, trying to survive.
Look,
I fart glitter and confetti, okay? Like,
we didn't need to know that.
That's what My Little Pony is about.
We would have been fine if you never told us that, D. We would have been fine.
Well, now you know.
The more you know.
The rainbow has flown over our heads, and it says, "The more you know."
So this whole this first season, or first series of Saturday Morning 101, we are like taking on what our fans, what you, the audience, have told us are the essentials of Saturday morning and the Saturday morning experience. The next series that we're going to do, as we finish this one, will be the weekday shows. So not Saturday morning, but weekdays. And then we'll do Saturday Morning 102, which will be the more obscure stuff. But right now we're doing the essentials to expose not just you, the audience, but specifically DBRT, who... I'm
getting exposed, evidently.
Onlyfans.com.
No.
You need to be cartoon educated, D.
So this morning, we are talking about my literally all-time favorite Saturday morning cartoon. I still go back and rewatch this on a regular basis. Dun 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 dun. Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Firestar and Iceman. And that's exactly what this show is about. Spider-Man lives with and teams up with Angelica Jones and Bobby Drake, Firestar and Iceman, and they go on amazing adventures, and they fight robots and other supervillains and Doctor Doom, and they even teamed up with the X-Men, not once, not twice, but 3 times on this series. And Willow, this is, in my opinion, the foundation of the modern Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is where it all started on Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Because in the first season of this show, we did a deep dive on 7 Little Superheroes, the episode 7 Little Superheroes, where you had Captain America and Namor and Doctor Strange and Shanna the She-Devil, all joining Spider-Man and his amazing friends on a massive team-up. It was epic. But, Cade, you prepared for this episode by taking a deep, deep dive. I think you told me yesterday you finished the entire series.
Yeah, actually, I rewatched all 3 seasons, and I took copious notes. Copious. So I have a lot to...
That sounds like a medical condition.
Well, it is.
Right next to OBS.
They haven't figured it out yet, but, you know. So, I guess I could lead with the most interesting thing I took note of.
Okay.
I think that perhaps the most amazing part of Amazing Friends is specifically their amazing friendship.
Aww. Look at that.
In Season 1, Episode 2, Bobby was actually having trouble, Bobby being Iceman, was having trouble paying the rent, and on 3 occasions he mentioned it. And then when he finally went to pay the rent, Bobby, Angelica, and Peter helped him pay it. They, went behind his back and gave Aunt May the envelope full of the money, and he just found out. See, I think that their friendship really is what made the show. Like, their dialogue, their relationships, that is what made this show so great.
So, did you pick up on this, Cade? As a kid, I always thought that there was a romantic tension between Peter and Angelica, but Peter never acted on it because I think Bobby also had a crush for Angelica, and he, never moved in and respected his friend as well.
Well, believe it or not, this is actually addressed quite a lot in the show.
Is it?
Yeah, in episode 8 of season 1, Iceman actually got Peter, or Spidey, to confess that he truly cares for Angelica, but he's afraid that if he's rejected, it would literally be the end of Amazing Friends. Like, Spider Friends. Literally a case of unmet love at every turn. It was kind of heart-jerking at some moments, because there were episodes where, in that same episode, Bobby confessed that he also likes Angelica, but he can't get close to her because he said that fire and ice don't exactly mix.
But they complement each other perfectly.
I'm torn, because I love the idea of Spidey and Firestar becoming a couple, but at the same time, Bobby is such a charming character in this show that you feel bad for him at times. And I want to explain, when you feel bad for a character, guys, that's a good thing. That is good, because what it means is they wrote the character very well. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with feeling bad for a character like this character's missing out. Okay, you should feel bad for characters, because that means that they're doing a good job in the writing. All right? Iceman, there was a moment where, I think it was episode 3, Iceman had to ask Angelica to back off because she was getting too close, and her heat powers were actually causing him to melt.
Her hotness.
Yeah, he actually literally phrased it like this: "You gotta back off, hot stuff."
I love that. I think that could be applied to Dee Barty sometimes.
I think I've actually been told those exact words.
Yeah, by Dean Cain.
Maybe.
So, Cade, this is amazing. We're gonna get to more of your thoughts and impressions, but I gotta know, Dee Barty, how many episodes did you watch, and what are your takeaways?
She didn't watch it.
I thought it was amazing.
Pun
No,
intended.
I didn't watch it. I didn't watch anything.
Pun intended.
Not even the short clips I sent you?
Nope. I didn't even check your message. Do you know how many messages we have gotten lately on the little...
Well, on the group chat, yes, I know. We're going to address that. But on our little co-host chat, yes, I send a lot of messages, but they're all important. They're for the show.
I know. Look, I'm just going to be honest with you. By the time,
Mute this.
by the time Friday hits, I forget that the show is even a thing. And then I'm like, oh, crap. And then I end up having, a ton of things to do. Because, I've got a ton of things to do. So, and then I'm like, oh, I might not be there Saturday. And I always show up. But, so that's, yeah.
Willow.
Yes,
So,
sir.
no, I didn't watch anything.
I know you did the homework, and you just got Disney Plus, which
I
means
did.
you have
Oh,
access
no.
to the entire Spider-Man library.
Yeah, I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
So, but what do you think? What are your first impressions of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends?
It's actually a really good show. I don't remember watching it when I was a kid. I don't know if we got that up here.
Well, it was maybe before your time. Because
There
I
were so
don't
many
think it's
cartoons in the 80s, so
well, and I don't think it ever ran in any reruns. It ran Saturday mornings, but for whatever reason, Cade, they never moved Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends to syndication.
No, I remember watching it in reruns because, like, I didn't grow up in the 80s.
Right, I know that.
So, like, it was, like, early 2000s. Like, they were running it back-to-back. I think it was either on ABC or Disney with Spider-Man from the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so 94 Spider-Man and 81 Amazing Friends were going back-to-back, and little kid me was super confused. We were like, wait, where's Mary Jane? But, as I got older and I started digging into things, it made sense, it clicked, and I love Spider-Man, so it never really mattered. I just wanted to figure out where he came from and where it got to. Those shows were the start of my Spider-Man fandom.
Well, so let me ask you this question. You guys, Willow, you watched the clips that I sent, and hopefully you took a little bit of a deep dive and read some of the trivia and maybe watched some of the other episodes like Cade and I did. But did I lost the question I was going to ask. I had it in my head, and it completely left me. What just happened?
Did it have anything to do with the other show? The other, kind of? No?
I don't know. I mean, I was speaking the thought, and as I'm speaking it, like left in the ether.
That's why I take notes.
Yeah. I don't know what just.
I'm
happened.
gonna have to download OBS so that I can get those fun little sound effects.
Bye, Chris. Thank you for watching.
Bye, Chris.
Chris
Stepping ahead.
says he's gotta go. Have a good weekend, everyone.
He's gotta go. You gotta tell him bye, like he's leaving.
It is a nice thing to say.
Yes, it is. I love it. Love it. Yeah, Iceman would melt with Firestar in more ways than one.
Yeah, like I said, I was very torn about that because I love the idea of fire and ice making it work, making a relationship work. It's like, it's kind of adorable, but at the same time, Peter and Angelica actually had a couple dates, so it's like, I wasn't sure if Bobby was just kind of like stepping out of the picture and just letting them be together, or if they were all three just kind of taking turns dating, I guess.
They were a throuple. They were polyamorous before polyamory was a thing.
So so I didn't want to address this, but I feel like it should be addressed. There was an episode, it was season 3, episode 6. Spidey meets the girl from tomorrow. It was very odd. He meets an alien who is from the future and literally falls in love with her instantaneously and decides to throw his entire life away to go live with her on another planet in the future. So they worked things out to where he couldn't go because of Earth germs. Yep. And he had to stay on Earth. But the thing that makes me feel unfulfilled in that episode is that they didn't really console him. There was no, like... Because most of the time at the end of, like, every Amazing Friends episode, there was this moment where the three got back together and was just like, we're pals. No worries. It's all good. But at the end of this one, it was just sad because he's left there standing and she's off on another planet. And you just have to imagine he can't be with her. And that's just how it is.
And so everyone was just like, sorry about your tough luck, Pete.
Yeah.
Let's go get some pizza.
Pretty much.
There was no, oh, poor baby.
Well, like, okay, so, like I said, unmet love was basically an underlying theme throughout this entire show. And there was a moment, episode 7, where Firestar... wait. Episode 7 of season 3, where Firestar is forced to confront an old love of hers. It's a revenge-seeking cyborg named Cyberad. And that's you got the picture there, Johnny.
Yeah, let me bring it up here.
Okay, so 2 things about this. Firestar was working with this guy, and I think his name was Nathan Bright, to help perfect some sort of experiments he was doing. I'm not sure if they had to do with light or what, but AIM, unmentioned, but they're visibly the AIM agents, you know? Like with MODOK and everything. They come in, and they blow the place up, and he thinks that Firestar did it. Because of course, she would, like, why would she? She loves you, right? But he blames her, and at first designs this like cyborg organic half of him to he programs it for revenge, to seek revenge on Firestar, and that's how the whole like premise of the episode, that's the whole plot of it. Now, the thing I think is really cool about this is Cyberad is basically a robo Two-Face. He is literally fighting with himself because his human half still loves Firestar and does not want to hurt her.
That's amazing. And Dave Mattingly adds a
laughing.
comment. That's why I never date revenge-seeking cyborgs. They just can't let it go.
Well, in his defense, he wasn't always a revenge-seeking cyborg.
That's hysterical. So, Dee, do you have any notes like Cade does?
You know what? Go on somewhere.
Okay, but to be fair to Dee, I am a living, breathing cartoon character.
Yes, you
so
are.
It's kind of hard to compete. I mean,
well, so Dee, can you tell that if you put Cade and I together in a room, all other people would be like, we would ignore everybody else, and this would
okay, wait, unintentionally.
I mean, you kind of are already.
We don't mean to.
Willow and I are just having to like interject, but you know, I'm fine with that.
Well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, because these are very deep, emotional things happening in this cartoon. Like, no, there are a lot of deep, emotional things in this cartoon that I did not expect because it's Amazing Friends.
Well, and produced by Marvel, who also did Gem and the Holograms.
True.
And Gem and the Holograms, we've talked about this before, Willow, that you had forgotten how impactful that show was around the issue.
And it touched on a lot more heartwarming subjects than you think that a cartoon would.
More adult themes. And this did the same thing from, same studio. It makes perfect sense that Gem would continue that.
I have to ask you, Johnny, because I don't know for sure. Was this tied to Sunbow, or did Sunbow have nothing to do with this one?
It had nothing to do with this one. Now, the anime, I mean, so Cade is opening up a big Pandora's box. So Marvel Animation Studios subcontracted out a lot of the work to Sunbow Studios. And so they probably did work on this. But, I don't know how much they were... Because Sunbow was involved with Transformers and G.I. Joe and all of the Marvel Studios stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure their hand was in it. But that's a deep subject for another day.
Because I know that... name slips my mind... but the voice of Bumblebee was Spider-Man in this.
Yes.
I know his name any other time I'm talking about him, but right now. So I'm wondering
That happens
if
to me all the time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the audio recordings kind of they had the same sort of casts and certain things. I know that very few voices from this show actually carried over from the first show that you said aired earlier in the year.
Wait, was this Dave Gilvazan?
Gilvazan,
Gilvazan, yeah.
Yes. Dave Gilvezan.
Yeah, so what Cade is referencing is in 1981, there was another show that was just a Spider-Man solo show. And they recycled some of the animation for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, same theme song, but the quality of the animation on the solo show was not nearly as good as Amazing Friends.
That is interesting because I know that the one. So I read up. The first one was done overseas, from what I can remember. Some of the animation.
I'm sure it was, yeah.
And that's interesting because that animation was like reserved for the Sunbow stuff.
But the character designs, the character models were not very. I don't think they were as good. Now there was a great episode with Namor the Submariner and his niece Namorita that was a lot of fun, but the voices were different, the character designs were different. It just there were so many things that didn't work for me that Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends corrected.
It's also worth mentioning that so fans have speculated that they are in the same universe, but to clarify, there were entire scripts just copied from the 81 show to the Amazing Friends show. Like, they would just alter slight, just make miniature changes.
Yeah.
There were, The Revenge of the Green Goblin was a big one.
Yeah. So, let's talk about some trivia here, guys. I'll start. So, everyone bring up the IMDb trivia page that I sent you. Firestar was created exclusively for the show. She had never appeared in comics before Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And her looks, the way she looked as Angelica Jones, were based on Mary Jane Watson from the Spider-Man comics. That was intentional. Oh. They didn't have Mary Jane, they had Angelica Jones. Now, here's what's really weird about this, Cade. You guys, unless you were a fan of the show, you wouldn't remember this. Firestar didn't appear in the comics until almost 10 years after this show was on the air. And they finally introduced her in her own mini-series where she became a member of the Hellions, a splinter group of the New Mutants. But Marvel Comics never did a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends comic book or series.
Yeah, because there was one.
There was a one-shot, but they never did a series. And I always felt like they just missed the boat on this.
They did.
So, I don't know. But, so, Willow, what about Wolverine in the Pride of the X-Men show?
Yes. Wolverine's appearance in the show has him speak in an Australian accent, voiced by Neil Ross. Despite the character being from Canada in the comics, Wolverine also has an Australian accent, and again voiced by Ross in Pride of the X-Men, 1989. In the live-action X-Men film series that began in 2000, ironically, the character is portrayed by Hugh Jackman, who is also Australian.
I can't raise my hand, but I do have a little bit of something to say on that, if you'd be okay with that.
Sure.
Okay, so I did some extensive research into that back when I was doing a video on Pride of the X-Men.
Okay.
And believe it or not...
Bless you.
Bless you, D.
What the heck? That happened last week, too.
Believe it or not, he did not want to be Australian. He did not want the voice to be Australian, but the voice director was so determined to make it Australian. And I'll tell you why. Because apparently he thought that Australians were a big thing right then in culture. That's the reason why it was done.
Well, Crocodile Dundee was a huge box office smash.
Well, I think that's why it was. I think that's why he chose that voice, that accent, because the popularity, like, to him is like, oh, well, it just makes sense. But he's not Australian.
Yeah.
In fact, he's Canadian.
Well, and in
From Alberta.
In the episode The Juggernaut, Wolverine gets taken out like a little punk.
I was thinking, why did you jump on him? I was like, what?
It's
first
my turn! And then he gets just like, and his claws get stuck in the wall, and he can't like just
He can
slice
do
through the
nothing.
wall. I mean, he was such a waste.
Now, there's something to be said about the progression of the show, because by season 3, the fighting was way better. There was way more action sequences. There were way more.
DBRT,
Yes.
number 4 on
You-
this list, the character of Video Man. Tell us about that.
So I'm gonna be honest with you, John.
Yeah.
I just pulled it up. I'm still a little spinning. I can't look at it.
Adulting is hard.
I literally cannot look at it. I was like, oh gosh. You're gonna have to read it. I apologize.
Cinco de Mayo.
Got me.
So the character of Video Man was created exclusively for this series. And initially, Video Man was a villain, but with the video game craze of the 1980s, Marvel thought the character had more potential as a hero instead of a villain, and set him up to be included in the X-Men for their own series pilot. Now, there's even more detail about this, Cade. That whole episode was intended to be a soft pilot for that Video Man series.
That
or-
is
or
something
character.
I did not know that. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
There was
Um,
back in the day, there was all this hype over Video Man, and that it was going to be the next big thing. And for whatever reason, he appeared in that one episode, never appeared again anywhere in Marvel lore.
Well, I thought it was kind of peculiar how they just so the hero version of him was season 3 episode 3, and that was called The Education of a Superhero. And I thought it was peculiar that they just sort of acted like the previous 2 episodes didn't happen. Like, he's just all of a sudden a new character, because when he was first introduced, he was a villain, and they knew
Yeah.
him as a villain. But in this episode, he's just, like, never been heard of before.
Yeah, yeah. And S. Baudelaire says, Video Man!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, and he also said that Spider-Man and his amazing friends got a reference in the Spider-Verse comics, and this is just recently.
Yeah.
And they were pretty mean-spirited. So what happened is they were killed.
Yeah.
In the Spider-Verse comics, Bobby, Angelica, and Peter died together.
Nobody liked that. Nobody.
No.
I think the only one left living was their dog, Miss Lion, and that was very sad.
Yeah. Yep. Willow. So let's see. Talk to us about the villains who made return appearances after their first appearances.
Only 3 villains made return appearances after their first appearance on the show. Magneto, in a brief flashback as in a Firestar is born. Electro, in a cameo appearance in Attack of the Arachnoid.
Mm-hmm.
And Video Man, who appeared in Video Man, the origin of Iceman and Education of a Superhero.
Yeah, and so Firestar is born. I think Cade is my favorite. Well, my favorite single episode of this is 7 Little Superheroes. But after that, I think A Firestar is Born is maybe the best episode of the series.
Yeah, I can understand, because there's a lot of people like 7 Little Superheroes
Yeah.
as their favorite. I remember Swarm the best, because that one, I don't know, I guess they played that quite often. And that was, I mean, he wasn't intended originally to be an alien bug-infused meteorite. He was originally supposed to be like a human that got crossed between insects, but on this, he was a meteorite-infused swarm of bees, and to me, it sings like an old monster movie, and I love that. I love that sort of like campiness of it. But I think my favorite episode is Season 2, Episode 3, Along Came Spidey. Because,
The origin of Spider-Man.
yes, but not because of the origin. because of the last line they say. Because you know how their tagline, their like hero battle cry is "Go for it." It's just very "Go for it." But at the very end of this episode, Iceman. Okay, so like Iceman and Bobby and Angelica are both consoling Peter because he's like, "I'm gonna quit being a superhero. I'm not gonna be Spider-Man anymore. My powers have gotten Aunt May into serious trouble here." And they're up on the rooftop of the hospital just talking about his story.
Up on the rooftop. Bum, bum, bum. Anyway.
And he says, you know, he's going to quit. And Bobby's like, "No way, buddy boy. You can't do that. You already know what the answer is." And they put their fists together and they say, "Go for it." But they don't all three say it. He says it in a very bittersweet, sort of somberful way, like it just, I don't know, it just hit different. It was very emotional.
I love that. Dee, did you have any idea that there was so much emotion and pathos in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends?
Not a clue.
What was your favorite episode?
Stop. I like them all equally.
Okay, that's diplomatic. I love it. So,
in all fairness, Dee, let's be honest here. I spent this morning before the show watching the coronation of King Charles.
That's interesting because Dee is so diplomatic, she's actually running.
What?
Running for mayor, like, because she's diplomatic.
Huh.
She could.
You know, you're the third person to say that to me.
Yeah?
You really are. Oh, like, you do. What are y'all thinking? You do not want me as a mayor. Come on.
Well, it's just that you said you like them all equally, so you made it to where it was a diplomatic answer, so...
I do like them all equally. I didn't watch a single episode, so I like them all equally. They're all the same.
You are all my people. I like you all the same.
Exactly.
That's hysterical. So, Willow, you will be interested to know, if you haven't already watched them, the X-Men, who you love, appeared in 3 separate episodes. The Juggernaut, Juggernaut, A Firestar is Born, and the X-Men Adventure. Now, in each one of these episodes, the team is a little bit different, and Kitty Pryde changes in every episode. This first frame that I have up, Kitty Pryde is in the black and yellow in the ugliest, most uncreative costume ever.
It's really weird.
I was just gonna say, like, that's not your typical Chris Claremont outfit.
And I think they called her Sprite.
Well, in this one, she is in the Sprite costume. So that was her code name in the comics for a little while. She was Sprite, then she later became Shadow Cat, and I don't know what her code name is today. Most people just call her Kitty Pryde. Mm-hmm. And all 3 of these episodes were backdoor pilots for the 1989 X-Men animated movie, Pride of the X-Men. And again, the team was completely different in Pride of the X-Men. And it was all about Kitty Pryde joining the X-Men, which included, of all things, Dazzler.
Yes, it did.
So have you seen Pride of the X-Men, Willow?
Bits and pieces of it. I fell in love with the video game at my youth group.
Yeah.
Well, the cartoon itself does definitely play out like a video game. Very much. It's kind of like they modeled it after each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, luckily for you, Willow, Pride of the X-Men is also on Disney Plus. Willow just got Disney Plus this week, and we may not ever see her again. She's got a lot of catching up to do. Well, look, there's so much more trivia, and I mean, we could go on for hours about this. We don't have enough time, but Willow, as you were looking through some of the facts and the trivia on this show, what was one thing that stood out to you? Anything in particular?
I honestly just wanted to know what you guys thought, because you guys know more about this stuff than I do, and I don't know. I feel like I in order to do it justice, you guys need to do more of the talking.
Well, it's because I'm obsessed. I mean, look, Avengers comic books, Star Wars movies, and Saturday morning cartoons made me who I am today. And almost every memory I have from my childhood is either connected to an experience in the movie theater, reading comic books, or some Saturday morning cartoon. And I loved Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I absolutely loved this show. And I would recreate...
My Little Pony, My Little Pony. Sorry.
I love that. See, Dee, I love that you loved My Little Pony, even though it was satanic and dark. But, we could talk about this for hours, and...
Yeah, because I look like I'm satanic and dark, right?
Well, I mean, their villains were, but...
Yeah, so S. Baudelaire asks, is that Warpath or Thunderbird? It is Thunderbird. And Ken B says, that is the goofiest Kitty Pryde costume, LOL. Yeah,
Hi,
it was
Ken.
horrible. This is an interesting fact that I did not know, that Swarm appeared in the Spider-Man Broadway musical. He was a scientist who was a paranoid Norman Osborn turned into a monster with a gene splicer as revenge for backstabbing him along with the Sinister Six.
How did they make the bug suit work for a musical?
You know what? I never got to go up to New York to see it when it was running. It only ran for like 2 years.
Yeah,
that musical was full of
bugs.
Fun. Yeah, bugs. The Spider-Man that they chose at the beginning, didn't he injure himself?
Oh, there were multiple injuries.
I think there's a video about it somewhere out there.
I have a good friend who was an usher at the theater during that run. And injuries, technical... I mean, the stage rotated up.
Oh.
And there were so many times where the hydraulics failed and, like, people... like slid down. I mean, it was a crazy thing, and eventually, thank God, it closed. But
I remember seeing the ads for it on the Spider-Man DVDs.
Yeah, well, the music though, wasn't it written by Bono?
Oh, I don't know.
It was written. The music was written by a big pop star, and I can't. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I do not know that, but I just remember seeing the ad, like they were all dancing and doing there was a Green Goblin and everything, and they were trying to mirror the movies.
Now, speaking of Marvel musicals, if you go to Disney World, you can actually see the complete Rogers musical on stage. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? You don't know what I'm talking about, Willow,
No.
do you?
No.
When you watch Hawkeye on Disney Plus, the end credit scene of the final episode is everything my life is about. That's all I'm going to say. And you can see the whole thing. Yes, Dave Mattingly says I'm correct. Bono wrote the music for Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, because it ran, from 2012 to 2014, right at 2 years.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I knew that all from memory.
Well, good job. My memory is twisted.
You're welcome.
I take notes. That's why I take notes.
Okay, so S. Baudelaire says, when I went, The only thing that went wrong was one of the goblin's spikes fell off while fighting over the audience.
Oh dear.
A spike falls off into the audience, that could put an eye out.
Well, I hope that it was rubber and not. Yeah, that would suck.
I'm imagining such terror.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a true interactive musical.